At Pixar, the story process is highly collaborative, and we have a story department. And that's where the film is written and created and then born.
I think from the very, very beginning, we had this inkling that we wanted to have kind of a Western opening to the film. We just didn't know, what that meant and what that was going to be. And that really sprang from the great Buzz Lightyear space opening in Toy Story 2. Now, the original conception of the Western opening was quite different. The very first thing that we came up with was a big, quiet Sergio Leone kind of an opening.
We actually called it Showdown, and it came from the original script, and Bud Luckey boarded it.
Bud Luckey is a story artist who's been with us since the first Toy Story. He actually was instrumental in designing Woody. And at the time, he was just about to retire, and we thought this would be really nice to bring this full circle and have Bud board this sequence.
Toy Story 3.
By Bud Luckey.
Okay. We begin by, we have a shot of the signature Toy Story clouds slowly moving.
So we had Woody as the gunslinger showing up in the town, and townspeople kind of peeking out from the windows. And we would show little inklings of things that were off a little bit, like, we realized, oh, that's Mr. Potato Head peeking out of a window, So we started to work in these little Toy Story ideas. All of a sudden, light glinted in Woody's eyes, and he looked up, and the sun kind of resolved into Buzz's jetpack, and Buzz was coming down and landing at the other end of town. And they had kind of a showdown.
Your reign of terror is over, Lightyear. You best leave these innocent folks alone.
Before I kill you, Sheriff, I just want to know one thing.
Yeah?
And right before they're about to fire, suddenly all the facades of the town would fall down and disco lights would come on, and it would turn into this crazy dance party. And what we were going to then reveal is that these toys were now Molly's toys. All that really is left of that idea is the notion that Molly, is on her iPod reading her tween magazine and clearly not interested in toys.
Why do you still have these toys?
Molly, out of my room.
We realized pretty quickly that doing the slow Western, it was very stylish, it was very cool, but it was not the way to open the movie.
We felt like they needed this really kick-butt opening. These characters, they deserved being reintroduced in this really amazing way.
We went back to the drawing board, and I decided to just blow the whole thing up and say, okay, if we're not doing that kind of Western, let's make this feel like the audience has come in late to a movie. So we gathered all the story guys together, and we said, okay, here's the context. We want to do a Western opening. I want to introduce each of the toys. Other than that, the sky was the limit.
And so we just threw drawings out and came up with ideas in classic brainstorming fashion. And through that, we came up with, Ham has a spaceship, and Slinky is the force field dog, and we're going to steal that from Toy Story 1. We're going to steal Rex eating the force field, bursting, though, out of the ground because Jessie yodels.
I then went away with that and kind of created an outline. And the next step, of course, was to then board that.
And so we need someone crazy and action-oriented. Who is our, action movie person in this studio?
And so I turned to Mark Andrews, a brilliant story guy who Brad Bird brought to the studio.
And so Mark took all of our beats and just put them through him.
It was like this reboot of the opening.
So, opening of the movie, right? We got the clouds, we got the Toy Story, and then the brand burns away.
It was like big-time Western with trains and trolls and explosions, race cars, and then this whole other element of science fiction. It was just insane.
We gave him Mrs. Potato Head's the ninja, but he had her, the throwing stars and the flipping was all him. The pig ship that we gave him became the pig ship that we know now, this massive floating ham in the sky. That was Mark.
That's what he was doing.
That version, it went as big as you could, and all the set pieces were all there. But a big thing about these sequences, and when we make these sequences, is they have to work in the movie as a whole.
There was a time early on where we would get notes saying, wow, that was a really fun opening, but you could hack it off and you'd never miss it. And that always troubled me because I didn't want to do anything arbitrarily. So we really had to think, okay, what is the Western opening then? This idea of having kind of a flashback came up. We would come out of the Western opening and be with Andy, young Andy, playing with the toys. Thus show that what we had just seen, this crazy Western opening, was just a visualization of Andy's playtime. The problem was then very easily solved and let us not only have fun with the opening of the film, but it's there for a very specific reason. Now, looking at the film, it seems like an obvious thing to do, and it seems like something that really makes sense. But the road to get there was pretty convoluted.